Welcome to Prison Street Life Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking to G. Frank about his 19 years on death row, in particular, the death notice. It was something that he educated me on a couple weeks ago that I had no idea about, which is the inmates on death row receive a letter that's brought to their cell, and on it is the date that they're to be executed. So I just found that kind of, I don't want to say fascinating, but just definitely heavy, where you're sitting in your cell, you're already struggling with that, and then all of a sudden they drop a letter off, and it has a specific date and when they intend to kill you. So, um, you know, like with everything else with prison and street life, our goal is to go at the prison industrial complex, to reform it, and also to educate you on the process in prison, everything that happens that they don't talk about in these other podcasts and the other, social media platforms. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and thanks for tuning in. So on the phone with me now is G. Frank, and he's calling in, and I already let them know, that what we're going to be talking about specifically. So in this episode, the goal is to talk about the 19 years on death row. At the same time, and I told them, like, for me, it was shocking to hear about this death notice. But before we begin, just again, quickly reintroduce yourself and just kind of bring us to the day that you landed on death row.
Okay. All right. I'm George, a.k.a. G. Frank Franklin. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to death row in 1988. I stayed there until like 2006. Got my case overturned in 2005. So I've spent greater part of almost 36, 37 years in prison between death row and population. Spent 18 and a half, almost 19 years on Ohio's death row.
Wow, that's just, again, I've heard it several times, many times, and it still just blows me away. So when you got arrested, you're waiting, you finally get to, go through trial, everything that happens at trial, and then you get sent to, like I always say, like, I landed on the yard 14 years, but I'm landing on the yard with GP, general population. You get there and they send you to a place called death row, which is a totally different, situation. So can you just walk us? Let's start by just walking us through from the time of the conviction to the time waiting to go to death row to landing on death row specifically.
Okay. Once I was convicted, they put you in this holding area by yourself because they're going to transfer you within the next 24 to 48 hours to death row. They'll come and get you, the highway patrol and all that. So what happened with me was they put me off to really just to see how I would react. They wanted to see what my mental was like. And I really didn't have anything. I was really fried. I was still in, basically in shock. And then after a few hours, they would come by and ask you if you were okay. Yeah, I'm okay.
Right.
So transfer day. They come and get you. It's early in the morning. I'll never forget it. It's early in the morning. I got in this van. But I wasn't in the van by myself. I was in the van with a couple other guys that were actually going to orientation for GP.
Wow.
I just happened to be in the van with them. I was sitting in the back and they were in front. Already separated.
Nah, but you can still talk to them, right?
Yeah, I can still talk to them. And one guy I knew, Mosley, from my neighborhood, and I'll never forget what he told me. He said, man, you gotta really, really trust in God, George. This is the time, man. If you've never prayed, man, this is your time to pray. Now, what do you think I thought about that? What do you think how I processed that at that moment?
I mean, if it's me, I probably don't want to hear shit. I'm not gonna lie.
I didn't want to hear none of that shit. None of it. I actually, it sounded like the Peanuts. Womp, 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 womp.
Right.
I didn't hear. I heard what he was saying, but I heard nothing. I wasn't happy. But later on, I got what he was saying.
Yeah.
So we get to the place called Orient, and that's That's when orientation goes in Orion,
Yeah.
Ohio. It's a prison. I mean, imagine that.
Right.
So we'll get in there for about, like, they go there. They're going to stay there, you know, until they get to their parent institution, so to speak, out in population. Me, on the other hand, I go in there, get a shot, get right back on that van, and then they took me on this country road, Route 42, to Lucasville, Ohio. And I'll never forget driving up to that place. I got there around 7:30 p.m. and the road to the prison was all rocks, man. It was like little, you know,
like
little
gravel,
rocks.
little
Like
pea
gravel,
gravel.
right.
Yeah.
They had no parking lot. It was just, what the fuck?
Was it new? A new facility?
Hell no, it wasn't new. It wasn't new. But I guess they were going to put down some blacktop or something like that.
Yeah.
But at that point, I just remember that gravel and the tires rolling on that gravel, and I'm looking at this gate in this garage that I went under, and I said, well, I guess this is it. So I go into this garage, and they take me up these steps. Now know that's a building called J1, you know. And I walk up the steps, and they make me take all my clothes off. And back then they would spray you with this spray.
Wow, you see, like Shawshank. People don't know that Shawshank Redemption was filmed out in
that's
in
like
Ohio.
that, butt naked.
So like D-Louse and shit, or whatever
that's
they
right.
call it.
You know, raise your balls, sit down and squat,
that's crazy.
put up your feet, spray you down, put your clothes back on. Put your clothes back on, so does the shackles and the handcuffs come on there through that.
That's crazy. I'm curious. Like for me, I just wonder how, because you're in a vehicle with guys and they might be doing 5 years, 10 years, whatever, but to get in someone in the same vehicle and to conversate with somebody who's, you know, sentenced to death. Like if I'm sitting there 14, I might be thinking, oh man, this is horrible. And then I get in there with you and I'm like, well, holy shit.
I'm going to tell you something about that. I kept hearing, damn, bro. I got tired of hearing that shit. I'm like, man, you making me, you fucking with my anxiety, mate. Wait, what you keep saying, damn, bro, so you getting ready to go, I'm getting ready to, I'm the one that's getting ready to face this shit. Yeah. So I get up there, and then they walk me down the hall, and this is my first introduction into my first day of death row. Mm. I'm walking down the hall, and they make everybody get on the wall. And I'm walking right down the middle of this hallway on this yellow line. As you know what them yellow lines are. Yeah. I'm walking right on the yellow line. And all I hear from the guys that are out in population is, keep your head up, little bro. Keep your head up. Be strong, little bro. And I'm thinking to myself, shit, I don't know about that.
Right. It's probably like, I think of like in war when somebody's like close to a bomb and then they get the ringing of the ears. They can't really hear anything. They're almost disoriented and shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that was what it was, but.
Well, you're walking down this hallway and you see these faces, man. They all soulless. You understand what I'm saying?
Empty.
They just empty. And then you get to this door, and that's what it says, Death Row, K block, Death Row 1. And they say, open slide door 1, and you hear the door slide. And then you go in, and you go to this table where they are already waiting for you. They ask you your name. And you tell them what your name is, and they give you an ID, put it on your shoulder, and give you a shopping bag. And I'll never forget, it was a porter, death row inmate who was working as a porter. He says, "Here's your stuff. You're in K417." And I said, "Where that's at?" He said, "Just follow that light downstairs. When that door opens, you'll see it." So the gates open, and down, there's a block full of men standing at the damn bars with their arms outside the bars. Some got cigarettes, some people just got mirrors, and they're just looking at you. and I'm walking by them and everybody, and I see TVs and lamps and shit. Remind you, it's about like 7:45 now. And I go in and I hear this door open. And boom, that's 17. And the guard tells me, step inside. I step in, and all there is a sink and a bed. And then before I could turn around, man, I heard that damn thing slam on me. That slammer on me. Bam! Shook me. Turn around. I'm here.
That's to me, and I would imagine everything, because some places you get into, I are very echoey. You know what I mean? My bird is yelling in the background. She waits for the perfect time. But anyway, I got a macaw and I got a cockatoo, and they're just, they're getting up. But anyway, so I would imagine getting in like all the echo part of it, because there's certain things, especially when you get to the prison for the first time, the sense, what you're engaging with, seeing the people. I can't imagine any more a dismal place than something like that. And the weight is on your back, like as soon as
they
you
make it.
Yeah.
They make it a jury, because the color of the walls are green. It's like this lime green with this, and they use these yellow lights. So just imagine what that combination looks like. Especially, it just looks weird. It's very light and bright, but it's a crazy color combination. And what I've learned over the years, they've done it because it's supposed to be something to keep you calm. Well, it didn't keep me calm. It creeped me out.
It's funny because I'm wearing a green shirt and a hat, Yankee hat, and then my emblems from the Grand Canyon's got some yellow. It's like what you were describing.
It's on the wall.
It's not. I could only imagine. So there's nothing in there that could keep you calm other than a sedative. I would imagine, like being in that situation, I would just a sedative, something just to. They should be hitting you with like a glass of scotch on through the door, like.
Now, mind you, I got sentenced in '88, December of '88. I got there right before the Bengals played in the Super Bowl in 1989. So I'm still up in there. January 5th.
That's Boomer Esiason, right?
Yeah, Boomer Esiason quarterback.
Oh my God!
And I watched the whole playoffs from the county jail.
And you didn't get a chance to see the game?
Never did. Never. I've seen replays of it.
That's a hell of a marker.
A hell of a marker for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and that Sunday, that Super Bowl comes on, and this is how these people are engineered. They had a few people had television, so what they would do, they would take these little personal mirrors, and they would put them on a stick and hold them up against out on the range, and you could look into the person's cell and watch the TV like that. I had none of that. And I was doing
not yet.
Not yet. Not ever. I never got into
no?
that.
Okay.
No, never that. But I found out that people made way with what they had, man, and most of them had very little, next to nothing.
Oh, you eventually got a TV, so you wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, I eventually got a TV, radio, all those amenities, so to speak. Got all that stuff later on. But when I first got there, no, I had to wait, and I'm gonna tell you something. It helped me.
Yeah. Because
I started doing something I hadn't done in a long time, and that is read and write. Sometimes you underestimate how important that is when you don't have to do it,
Yeah.
And
it's like that out here, though. Like, nobody reads and writes anymore. Everything is video. Everything is like the idea of just calming your brain and to just take in information, to convey information in the most basic way. That's over with out here. Like, it's very rare. Everything is just 1,000 miles an hour. That's one of the things, and I tell Karen this all the time, that I miss about prison, which is sadly enough, but it's just the quietness. Now, people think it's not quiet, but that's, that moments where you could just get into your world.
Especially at
night. No distractions. Especially at night.
And I'm going to tell you, too, when I first arrived there, over the coming weeks, I learned about what kind of did I want to do? What did I want to do? Did I want to save my life, or was I just gonna, roll over?
Right.
Because you had some old schools that were back there who made it a point to tell me, hey man, you're gonna have to save your own life because they ain't gonna do it. They invested in killing you, player.
Right.
Spent a lot of money to get you back here, so they intend to carry out that sentence,
Right.
whether you know it or not. So you can run around here, watch TV, know all the sports stats and all that old shit like that you want to. They'll come get you. Trust me.
Yeah.
So I took heed to that. So I finally got a death date. That comes a couple weeks after you arrive there. Maybe about a month or two, you get a death date.
Well, explain the notice, because this is what I started the podcast of before you called to let them know about this, because I found that to be one of the most powerful events or situations in prison that I've ever experienced. I had never heard of it, so if you could elaborate, how you felt and exactly what it is, a death notice.
I accumulated maybe 12 to 14 death dates through my lifetime on death row. But the very first one you remember the most. And the very first one I got, it looks just like a birth certificate. Only difference is it has your date of birth, but it also has the date that this execution will be carried out. So I'm sitting at my cell one day looking to see if I would get any mail. Sure enough, I got some mail, and I looked on my chute, and I'm going through my mail, and I see something from the governor's office, and the attorney general. I'm like, wow, let's just open it up, and it says that this is a death notice from Mr. George Franklin. On this day, you will be, executed on this day and time, midnight of whatever date it was. I don't recall. I think it would have been in August of 1990. But when I got it, I panicked. I'm like, oh man, I'm telling everybody, and everybody is smirking and laughing. They was like, calm down, man. That's not gonna happen. You got an appeal, man. That's just routine. I'm like, routine? He said, yeah, get used to it. They actually want to kill you. They sentence you to death. They actually mean it.
And it comes from the governor's office, the one person who could save your life. There's a whole dynamic back and forth in there that it blows my mind. And I've done 20 years in prison on 11 yards.
It probably comes from the state attorney general's office, but it has the heading of the governor. It has the governor's seal on it and the governor's signature. I'm pretty sure. I know the governor has to sign it, so he had to sign that death date. And I was like, damn. I'm looking at this seal, and I mean, this thing looks just like a birth certificate. I said, damn. And you're really sick when you get it. I mean, it's more of a mental gymnastics and psychological gymnastics that you have to go through back there than a physical one. And
it would make me feel like almost like these people hate me so much that they want to end my life. Like that feeling, nobody likes to be disliked, but be hated so much that,
Well, that's bingo. That's exactly how I felt. I'm like, damn, I'm the worst of the worst. I'm told that you must hate me on planet Earth more than anything. That you have to go through this. This is a whole process. This is crazy. This is really state-sponsored murder. This is what we're doing here.
And people are going to say, well, but you did what you did. And again, let me just on your behalf argue this point briefly. People could say that, and I don't have a problem with you saying that. As for me, as long as it's the same for everybody across the board, but it's not. That's really what it all the way comes down to. It's like no matter what the case is, whether it's sentencing or death row or death notice, if it's not the same across the board, then it doesn't need to be implemented. That's just my
Right.
belief on it. So,
Well,
you know.
well, it comes with fact because mostly people back there are very poor. Ain't no rich people on death row.
Right.
It's normally the amount of people that they throw these sentences at are usually poor, obviously disenfranchised, minority groups. Not to say that there are any whites that don't go through it because it's economic anyway.
Yeah, it's a class issue, I believe.
I would say it's more of a class issue than anything else because race is going to permeate anything all the time in our country anyway.
Yeah.
But I believe that class is the driving factor behind all of it, and people don't want to come to grips with it because they would say, well, what is this person still was convicted of a heinous crime?
Right.
Well, I would argue with you, there is no murder that ain't heinous.
Right. But they've been able to, you know, bite size everything out here. So
yeah, because they sensationalize a lot
right.
of stuff.
So the same thing that's on, like, whether it be from a political standpoint, on this side, they don't want to look at what's going on. So, like, for me, it's more beyond that. You have to, for me, as prison and street life and what we're trying to accomplish, what I'm just trying to do is to help people understand how intricate it is, but also how contradictory it is. Because, you know, everybody can feel a certain way until it's somebody in your family, somebody you love.
Right.
And then all of a sudden your perspective will change.
And this is just my point of view. I ain't really trying to change anybody's views on the death penalty per se. What I do want you to do is pay attention to what they do in your name. And if you're comfortable with it, then you're comfortable with it. I'm betting that you won't be comfortable with it.
Right.
You know, whether you agree with it or not. I don't know how you make it more fair. I don't think you can. I don't think this is one of those things that you can make it fair.
No.
I think
and
you really have to.
It's not.
You really have to. That's right. What you really have to come to grips with is how much of this shit you can take. The people lying to you, disrespecting your intellect by just doing stuff in your name while you just okay it. And the reason you okay it is because you don't know anything about it.
Well, let me stop there. You know, stop you at that point, because that is exactly, and when you're dealing with prison or street life, I try to always explain to people that in there we don't have the visuals that they have out here. So everything you're saying is absolutely correct. That how much can they stand? And from being out 3 years after doing 14 and then 20 of the last 23 or 24, I've been out 3. They can stand as much as out there. Like, no matter what you tell them, it seems like nobody cares. And that's that's the whole point. Like, for me, is to navigate through that, because it's like we're all at a dinner, everybody's laughing and joking, and you can't really get anybody's attention. But if I come up there and I just start shooting in the air, everybody's attention is and even then, is momentarily brought. But even then, when you have these mass shootings, it's the same thing. We go on and we go on with our lives after that. The humanistic part of us as a people is almost numb to the point of oblivion. Like, nobody really cares. And so, you know, we keep pressing forward.
What I would say that when human beings start in a decline, it'll always start with your damn federal apparatus. When people, and what I mean by that is, when people start believing in their government and their leadership and the people who they think should be, you know, for lack of a better word, the parent of us all, they start to run them up like children, rudderless boats just going in circles. And what's going to happen is nobody is going to have any empathy for anybody else. I think we probably already back.
We are, and that's the trippy part, bro. Like, I wish you were out here to see it. We don't. Very rarely do we do. You know.
Yeah, because in here I'm used to it. You know,
right.
In here I'm used to it, man. Fucking. because that's the prevailing thought in here. Everybody, I do me and you do you. Just stay out of my damn way. You do whatever the hell you want to do. Stay out of my lane. Now, I was under the impression that that's just penitentiary shit. Seems like to me that that's the way it is everywhere now, not just in here, but out there. Hell, it had to come from somewhere. Is the penitentiary driving society, or society is driving the penitentiary? Which one is it?
It says that prison is a microcosm of society. So when being in there with all those years and getting out, and me, you know me, how analytical I am, I'm just studying, how it operates. And so, it's everything that takes place in there is the same out here, but worse. That's what I'm saying. Like people say it's violent in prison. It's more violent out here. It's, the manipulation, the games, it's much more in there. It's much more out here. And so, to get anybody back, but you do have entities that are really trying to make changes. And so that's where we're focused on. We got roughly 4 minutes left. So let me ask you this question in regards to the death notice. So were you in there, and we're going to do a part 2 of this next weekend. But were you in there when people got the death notice, and do you have a couple of real quick some stories or some examples of how people reacted differently?
Well, I'll tell you what. You get a death notice after you've been on death row and went through a few appeals, and your appeals are running out, and you get a death notice. They become more serious, especially if you get a notice and they're going to take you down to the death house. That's as serious as it can get, because you may not come back. You can get executed. Now, I've had guys that get right to the chamber and then have a stay of execution. And and I know a friend of mine, Jerome, told me that prior to that, because he knew his date was coming, he had got his death notice, and he knew his date was coming. He hadn't got a stay, so he knew he was going to take that ride down there, and he was may have to take that last walk. And he told me that he could see the crevices of our skin. Anytime he talked, his senses were just keen, that he could smell damn near everything, and that he could hear better, and that he could see like the crevice in our skin. He just seemed like everything seemed so much alive to him. Wow. I said that's I never got to that point, and I never wanted to, obviously, but that's
nobody does.
Enough for me. Some people, I've seen people never come back. They got their death notice, and they came and got them, and they had to take that final walk. Then you had some that got right down there and got their stay of execution, had to come right back.
We're going to talk about those instances in the next podcast, because that I found a couple of those stories we already talked about. It just again blows my mind, because that's such a unique situation that literally nobody out here has, very rare to have experience. Like I said, the closest thing is when somebody kidnapped me, put me in a room, tied me up, and was like, "I'll be back in an hour to execute you." Like, that's the only place you can get to. You might feel death, but these people intended to do that, and so.
Yeah, because I want to talk about the brother Romel Broom. They put him on the gurney, tried to kill him, but couldn't find a vein, so they had to stop it.
Jesus.
He woke up and he thought he was dead. Nope. He woke up and he was still dead, but he was still alive. He had to go back to that cell.
So that is insane. So is he still alive? Did he ever get off death row?
No, he's not alive. Actually, he died of COVID.
Ain't that a bitch?
Ain't that a bitch?
Yeah, so that's a whole different ballgame.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Could say by the same people, but we'll cross that bridge at another time. So, hey, bro, I thank you for giving the call, man. I want to keep doing this because I think this is something that me and you planned when I was in there, and it's starting to, take shape. And so we're getting on these platforms.
I appreciate everything you're doing, bro, because you a guy saying, man, this is a platform that people need to hear. You the only one letting them hear it.